records of our section. Today we have a quite big program. And probably not every speakers will make presentations, but I suppose that we will have today a very interesting section. And by my list, first speaker is Anush Petrosyan with presentation of fostering sustainable practices of peace through peace education, a comprehensive approach to curricular development. Welcome. You could share your screen.
Thank you so much, Mikola. I will try to share my screen, although I don't see it now. Just a second. I'm not sure if I have the right to share screen. Could you check on your end? If
multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Okay, now I see. So I hope you can see it now as well.
Yeah, great.
Perfect. I will just make speaker and okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. As Mikola already said, my name is Anush Petrosyan. I'm a doctoral researcher at Tampere Peace Research Institute in Finland at Tampere University. And my presentation will be about peace education and curricular development. It will provide both conceptual so to say, take on peace education, but it will be also practical, as I will be talking mostly about the Peace Edu project that we are coordinating in Tampere, and it involves partners from Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and also some partners from the EU. I will first start with how we understand peace education, which is based on a concept note that was actually developed as part of our project based on needs assessments that were conducted by our partners in Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. And how we understand peace education is that it is a transformational, transformative, and polylogical learning process, both about and for peace. And these three terms we define from three perspectives. The first one, transformational, it is in the sense of having orientation towards understanding the conflict, and it is intended to transform modes of violent confrontation and promote culture of peace. It is transformative from the point of peer orientation, so in a sense that peace education is meant to educate in peaceful ways and thus can transform those involved in the process itself. So what we mean here is that we do not only look at what peace education teaches or what peace education is about, but also how it is provided and how it is delivered in classrooms. And it is polylogical in a sense of participant or participatory engagement, that it is meant to enhance dialogic participatory skills and virtues for conflict prevention and transformation when it comes to the participants involved in peace education itself. So what our concept note tells us is that we do not see peace education as a single discipline or issue, and it is also the case in a lot of peace education and peace studies curricula across the world, because it is seen as a multidisciplinary field, which is covered in various modes and forms in different courses such as psychology, social sciences, political sciences, and history, and so on and so forth. And it is aimed at promoting knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values to foster peaceful relations and reduce violence through educational and capacity building processes that are multidisciplinary, transversal, intersectional, relational, and cross-cultural. Peace education, as you might know, is part of the UN's agenda for peace to promote peaceful relations in a multidimensional way. And our project also contributes to this through aiming at preventing conflicts from becoming violent through, of course, educational systems when it comes to peace edu, but also at preserving in terms of peacekeeping, restoring when it comes to peacemaking, and also nurturing when we talk about peace building in this broader sense of building peaceful relations. We also recognize that peace education can sometimes in itself be part of violent systems and be complicit in violence, and therefore with our project, we also call for unlearning and disrupting the conventional modes of learning by, again, allowing more participatory modes and peaceful ways of the teaching itself. So this is how we conceptualize peace education in our approach, in our Peace Edu project. And the objective of the Peace Edu, which is co-funded by the European Union, is to support and facilitate cultivation of sustainable practices of peace in Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova. And as I already mentioned, we do it through working with higher education institutions to develop multidisciplinary peace education and peace studies courses, and to implementing it in already existing curricula in the countries involved. As I mentioned, Tampere University is a coordinator of this project, but we are doing it with 12 other partners. Our co-coordinator is Ilia State University in Tbilisi, Georgia, but we also have universities such as Taras Shevchenko National University in Kiev, or Kharkiv, in Kharkiv, we have Karazin Kharkiv National University, and here I also bring the names of all of the other institutions involved in case you're not familiar with their visuals. So in each of the three countries, we have two universities involved and also one beneficiary NGO from each of the universities, because we see that despite curricula changes, we also have to make this information accessible to wider public. And we also have 4 EU partners, 2 in Finland, 1 in Austria, and 1 in Germany. And 3 of them are higher education institutions. And following the same logic, we also have 1 NGO partner in Finland, the Peace Education Institute, which is helping us to also transfer the knowledge that we have within the existing peace education studies curricula in EU countries. So as I already mentioned, our main objective and goal is to develop and integrate peace education and peace studies in existing curricula in our partner countries. We do so by also training teachers and educators to contribute to continuous learning and professional development. We also have training tools or a syllabi that is addressed to impact the education system broadly. As I mentioned already, the work with NGOs is particularly aimed at raising awareness also of the public on the importance of peace education and the work that our partners at the universities are doing tirelessly. And as a result, we aim at building resilience in the communities and disseminating also the project results to the wider public, and especially with a focus on young people. As I said, our concept note and our ideas about peace education in general have been developed based on needs assessment that our partners have conducted in Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova. And we analyzed the results, trying to find synergies in all of the 3 needs assessments, but also we recognize that in each of the country contexts, the situation is different, and in each of the contexts, we might have different approaches. So here is the results of the needs assessment generally, where we can see themes that came up in all of the 3 countries, which are, for example, human rights, democracy, international recognition, youth engagement, cultural diversity, sensitivity, tolerance, and inclusiveness, and civic engagement, which were all patterns that we notice in all of the needs assessment results that are focused for enhancing conflict transformation and social cohesion in all of the 3 countries. But as I already said, despite all of the differences, similarities, we also have some differences or different priority needs in each of the countries. And we have also the breakdown of the needs that came up in each of the countries. On your screen now, you will see the ones that we have in Ukraine that are particularly focused on conflict resolution, social cohesion, human rights and democracy, promotion and tolerance, as well as international recognition of Ukraine's integration into global institutions. Then we have in Moldova, again, you will see the similarity here, but also the difference of the priority needs stands out, that conflict resolution and social cohesion still remain as the top priorities. But here in Moldovan case, we see that they also prioritize youth engagement generally and also recognition of cultural diversity. And then the third one that we have is Georgia's needs assessment here. And again, we see conflict resolution as one of the top priority areas, along with tolerance and inclusivity. And then we have civic engagement and cultural sensitivity. All in all of these themes kind of fit to each other, and we are working collaboratively while we have, let's say, context-specific work happening in each of the countries. We're also working together to learn from each other and also to develop cross-regional course that will run in all of the countries. And also students from the EU, for example, will be able to take this course as well. And it will be a shared course that is put together by the efforts of 13 partners in our project. So now that we've seen the needs assessment, we have a little bit of background about the how we conceptualize peace education. This is a slide just to sum up about how we move forward. So as I already said, curricula and development of courses is the first priority areas for us, but so is training teachers, in-service practitioners, and so on is especially important, so that we know that people are trained enough to deliver peace education in the universities. We also explore pedagogies of peace. So we have had previous study visits, let's say, to Finland and also to Austria, to the University of Innsbruck, which is our partner, to also learn from existing practices of how peace education is conducted, or peace studies are conducted in different places, where we also integrate ways of learning that are not always conventional, such as role-playing exercises, case studies, and so on and so forth. At the same time, as I already mentioned, we're working with NGOs, and our partners are also putting together extracurricular activities, especially when it comes to so-called school clubs, where students can further in a non-academic or non-formal way learn about peace education. And we are collaborating with civil society and also trying to further spread the word of the activities, and not letting all of this to remain within a few institutions only, through our social media and also through other dissemination activities, such as this one, for example, today, where I present you our project. And this was all that I had actually prepared. There is a QR code to Peace Edu website, where you can read a little bit more about us, what we do, and also about our partners in each of the countries involved. And yeah, you can engage by sending us a message if you have any interest in joining, or like if you have any ideas of how we can further disseminate the results of our project. So I think this will be it. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I also know that some of our partners have registered to join the session today, and I know some of us are already here, so maybe we can work together to answer to any questions that come up. I will maybe stop sharing the screen so that I can also see you.
Yeah, thank you a lot. Please, colleagues, questions to Anush? Do you have any? It's exactly the project, it's middle of the project now, and we are trying to do it in time. Please, colleagues. Oh, Maria, please.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for your presentation. I just thinking, can you just tell a little bit more about your feelings or thoughts about if there are any difference between between different countries and how you approach this educational project in different countries. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. It's a very good question because, as I also mentioned, the needs, while are similar, are also different in each of the countries, and the current situation is also very different in each of the countries politically, and also with the ongoing war in Ukraine, for example. And I think that partners who are part of this project from Ukraine could, for example, elaborate even further about how we're making this possible with the ongoing war. But I think that what we do is really taking into account really the needs of each of the countries, and also placing importance on all of the local knowledge that there is. I personally, as a co-coordinator of the project, take my role more in a technical way to coordinate, to provide the space in terms of coordination when we all come together. But I think that especially from the EU side of the project, we really rely on the local knowledge of our partners in putting together, because they are on ground. They know the local realities. They know the educational institutions better than us. We can try to educate ourselves about each of the case, but only to an extent. So here, I think that the collaboration, very strong collaboration between all of the parties is what makes the project possible. And of course, as I already mentioned, the needs are very different. And if you look at the courses that have been developed, there are different priorities in each case. So for example, in certain cases, we have more emphasis on, let's say, peace education when it comes to social cohesion or well-being of the students and the teachers involved. And then in some other cases, we might have more emphasis on mediation, for example, or in learning about, I don't know, conflict transformation and terms more towards that area. So I think that the short answer to your question would be to work collaboratively, recognizing the needs and the expertise in each of the countries and each of the institutions that are involved.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any question? Okay, thank you a lot. Thank you, Anush. And let's go further. Next presentation, as I understand, should be by Omar Ardashelia.
Hello, I'm from Sochum State University. As I know, Omar Ardashelia has sent you the article. It is ready for presentation, and it is marked when he was registering as not presenting, but to send the full article. And instead of Omari, and also is it as Lia Khaladze, I will present, I'm Tamar Shinjiashvili. I and Lia Khaladze will present our presentation. Can I share my presentation?
Yeah, sure.
I'm Tamar Shinjiashvili, and from Sochum State University, Dean of Education Faculty of Education Sciences, and Lia Khaladze, Head of Scientific Department. And we are also members of this project that Anush has already presented here. Now I will share presentation. I have prepared. I will try to be very short. The topic is the teacher in a post-conflict context, a sociological understanding of peace education. The topic is the part of the topic is about sociological theories and sociological understanding of peace education. I will try to be shortened and to pay much attention to practical aspect of this topic. In the modern world, societies frequently face the challenges of armed conflicts and ethno-political confrontations. In the aftermath of such conflicts, communities are left with deep social, cultural, and psychological trauma, which is significantly affect both interpersonal relationship and the functioning of the educational system. In this context, education gains special importance. It can either serve as a factor that exacerbates all tensions as a mechanism for fostering social reconciliation and establishing sustainable peace. In post-conflict contexts, the role of the teacher goes beyond more transmission of subject knowledge. The teacher becomes a social agent capable of rebuilding trust, promoting critical thinking, and strengthening a culture of tolerance. Therefore, it's essential to understand the teacher's role through a sociological lens within the framework of peace education. This allows us to recognize their potential as a driving force for transformative change. I have presented here the theoretical foundation of peace education. I present John Galton's theory, Paul Freire's approach, and Betty Random's theory. And I will not pay attention much because it's I can't tell them it's very short. It will be presented in the article. I will go through the practical part of this presentation about Georgia's context. In Georgia, as a multi-ethnic and multi-confessional state, has existing is a post-conflict situation for decades. The ethnic conflict that follows the collapse of the Soviet Union have left a deep mark on the country's social structure. In this context, education, and especially the teacher, becomes an institution and figure capable of developing new generation skills for peaceful coexistence. Georgia experienced severe arms conflicts in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, which created a period of mourning and division within society. These conflicts laid the groundwork for ethnic segregation, a crisis of trust and social tension that continues to influence both civil relations and education system to this day. I have examined I have analysis of the curriculum, textbooks, and national policy, and in post-conflict education, in order to evaluate the effectiveness of peace education, it's essential to systematically study the country's curriculum, textbooks, and national documents that define the development of a culture of peace and pedagogical strategies. In the case of Georgia, the national curriculum outlines general educational goals, which include not only the transmission of academic knowledge, but also the development of transparency of concepts, cooperation, and critical thinking among children. The analysis of textbooks that has shown that in subjects like history and social studies, a variety of narratives concerning national and international conflicts are used. However, the theme of peace is often primarily focused on the idea of being free from conflict and achieving stability, which may pose the risk of one-sided perspective. National policy documents such as the Education Reform Strategy and National Development Plans emphasizes the importance of peace and social equality in education. Nevertheless, in actual practice, systematic support for teachers working in post-conflict regions often remains fragile. Therefore, the systematic analysis of curricula and textbooks, along with national policy documents, serve as an important foundation for the effective integration of peace education into pedagogical practice and forms the basis for developing qualified and adapted strategies. The national curriculum is the main strategic document of Georgia's education system. It defines the objective of general education, outlines the key subjects and competencies, and describes general approaches to the teaching process. From the perspective of peace education, although the national curriculum does not include peace education as a separate subject, it integrates the principles of peace, democracy, human rights, and social equality across various subjects. As for the law of Georgia on general education, it provides the legal framework for integrating peace education. However, it requires practical mechanisms to better address the specific needs of post-conflict contexts. For practical issues of this theme, in Georgia's case, education in a post-conflict reality represents both a space of pain and possibility for transformation. The teacher, as an agent of peace, is someone who, despite the polarized environment, can teach future generations to embrace difference, resolve conflicts peacefully, and understand the value of dialogue. Therefore, it's necessary to systematically integrate peace education into national curriculum, provide teacher training in a trauma-sensitive and critical pedagogy, implement sustainable programs in cooperation between the state and civil society. I have interviewed teachers who teach in conflict regions or who are from conflict regions also. For researchers studying education in post-conflict settings, listening to the voices of teachers is crucial. Their lived experiences, values, emotional responses, and perspectives can serve as powerful sociological data. The following analysis is based on interviews with teachers working in the regions most heavily impacted by conflicts, particularly in communities of IDP persons from Abkhazia and the Tkhinvali region, as well as Shida Kartli, Samegrelo, and Khemo Kartli, its regions of Georgia. These interviews reflect both the post-conflict context in Georgia and the essential role of the teacher in advancing peace education. Teachers working in post-conflict regions of Georgia often link their personal experiences and emotions to the professional responsibilities. They acknowledge that working with children requires particular sensitivity due to their own history of displacement and trauma. I myself am displaced, and when I work with displaced children, I deeply feel how they repeat my pain. It is teacher from Zugdidi. Such experiences contribute to the development of deeper empathy and resilience in teachers. However, many interviews stressed the need for professional support and trauma-informed methodologies. Teachers frequently noted a lack of trust both among students and pupils and colleagues, as well as within the broader community. This reflects ongoing ethnic and social tensions in certain regions. The lack of trust also affects classroom dynamics. Students often don't feel safe expressing their opinions, which hinders the development of critical thinking. Teachers pointed out that school environment often rely on authoritarian methods, discouraging students from forming independent thoughts. Furthermore, there is insufficient training of support to help teachers address sensitive or controversial topics constructively. The interviews reveal that history lessons in some Georgian schools promote a single ethnic or political narrative. Teachers who attempt to introduce alternative perspectives often face resistance or difficulty. In ethnically diverse religions, they emphasize the need for inclusivity and overcoming language barriers. I teach in Marneuli, and there are kids from 3 different ethnic groups in my class. I teach words in all their languages. It helps them come together. It's teacher from Marneuli. It's region district in Georgia. I myself am displaced, and when I work with displaced children, I feel how important my words and reactions are, but I'm afraid of saying something wrong. It's female, 45 years old teacher in a displaced person schools in Zuktidi. Teachers reported a lack of formal tools or methodologies for peace education. However, many of them are already implementing informal practices aligned with peace pedagogy, such as encouraging multi-perspective historical thinking, promoting acceptance of ethnic diversity, fostering trauma-sensitive relationships in class. Analysis of the interviews reveals that teachers in Georgia often struggle on 2 fronts. On the one hand, they try to cope with their own traumatic experiences. On the other, they strive to teach students dialogue, empathy, and the ability to live together with others. Despite the lack of institutional support, they show initiative that lays the foundation for peace education. The analysis confirmed that teachers working in schools in post-conflict areas of Georgia face significant challenges related both to personal experiences and to broader systematic social political factors. The impact of trauma and emotional memory is particularly evident in their professional practices, requiring appropriate psychological and pedagogical support. Teachers' experiences show that inclusive and diverse approaches are particularly effective in ethnically heterogeneous classrooms and can play a key role in strengthening peace education. It is essential to create additional professional development opportunities for them, enhancing both their professional competencies and their ability to nurture students' critical thinking and empathy. I have final recommendations for policymakers and for us. The following steps are necessary at the level of national policy. First of all, it's necessary professional support and training. Systematic programs should be developed for teachers that include enhanced trauma sensitivity and the ability to address conflict-related topics in a refined, critical, and emotionally sensitive manner. It's necessary integration of peace education components into subject standards, incorporation of trauma-sensitive pedagogy into professional teacher development, revision of textbooks to reflect multi-perspective approaches to history, strengthening of psychosocial support in schools, and coordination between governmental and non-governmental sectors for peacebuilding initiatives. In post-conflict Georgia, the teacher represents a figure who effectively implements peace education through daily pedagogical practice. The spaces they create can become the foundation for shared memory and mutual understanding. Strengthening teachers through state support will determine whether education can truly serve as a pathway to reconciliation. Thank you very much. I tried to be short, but I don't know if I was able to do so. These problems, I think, we believe that this problem will be particularly resolved by this project, by these activities that we are implemented with these projects that Anush has represented. We prepare teachers, future teachers, our faculty, our educational programs, and we have also developed 2 syllabi in policy in peace education for teachers, for policymakers, and we also piloting this course. And we believe that after graduation of the university, after graduation, these courses, completed these courses, these future teachers, and many of them are also teachers, can change classroom environment and can change the stereotypes of pupils, and they will equipped with all skills that is necessary in conflict regions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, sure. It's the role of teacher is very important. That when Golda Meir told that there are 3 most important professions in country, it's a teacher, doctor, I mean medical doctor, not doctor of science, and the child soldier.
I agree with you. Fully agree.
Yeah, and
very,
the possibility.
Very hard profession, very hard.
Yes, yes, and in Ukraine, our government and our school children think the teacher is like a great mixture of Mother Teresa, Mata Hari, and Terminator. It's something very, very strong person. Thank you a lot. Please, questions?
We have some programs in Georgia, ongoing programs, which help people in conflict, post-conflict regions, but it is not necessary. Some NGOs are operating in Georgia, which help these people, but it must be government should head these processes. And not only government, as I also mentioned, teachers must change stereotypes of future pupils.
Yeah, sure. Thank you a lot. Please, questions? Okay, thank you, Tamar.
Thank you, thank you.
I have to go ahead. And in my list next, presentation should be by Leah Akhaladze.
Leah Khaladze and Omar Ardasheli, I have already mentioned, they have indicated to send articles. They have already completed these articles.
Yes, in coming day, we send to report.
Okay. Thank you. And then next, Svetlana Borea from Moldova. I don't see in the list. Probably she has some problems. Okay. And next, Maria Grishenko, Kyiv.
Yeah, hello. It's a very big pleasure for me to make presentation in my native faculty, actually. I will try my best of the best to make presentation in English. I have not so much practice last years, but I will try. Do you see the full screen or not? Can you see the full screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so I would like, and one question, how much time do I have? It's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or?
You know, due to not all members makes presentation, you could use more time as
Okay.
anytime you want. Yeah.
I try to be like short, but you can stop me. Okay, so I would like to talk mostly about the different concepts that sociologists and other disciplines, other scientists use when they are talking about the recovery process. And also I will I would like to talk about recovery during the ongoing war. It's our situation, and my presentation today it's more for making the discussion about the concept, and I'm just starting my scientific work on this issue. So I will be really grateful if you will discuss with me this conceptualization of the process of recovery during the ongoing war on the sociological and multidisciplinary perspective. Actually, the first step that I would like to talk is that when we're talking about recovery or reconstruction, our colleagues use different terminology for this process. But it's important to talk that we have ongoing war. So we are not talking, and it's not a time to talk about post-war reconstruction. And it's important to emphasize that there are a little bit or not, there is a big difference between post-war reconstruction and the reconstruction during the war. So the first, I would like to emphasize that when we're talking about reconstruction or recovery during the ongoing war, first of all, we need to tell that recovery can start only in the situation of peace, like temporal peace or the more peaceful situation or not so dangerous situation to start the recovery. And it's also important to tell that this process is this is really risky, because when we get the conditions to start the recovery, we always need to remember that it's always a possibility to get new destruction and new traumatic experience, and the war can start in more diverse and hard way. But in any cases, the recovery starts directly after destruction. And our Ukrainian communities, they start recovery process during ongoing war, and now it's take place on different levels, on national levels. We have the strategy of recovery of our country, and on local level, on the level of communities, and on the level of families. And individual actually levels. We have different policies, and also a lot of initiatives take place in Ukraine to start the recovery of our communities. The second important issue is that when we're talking about recovery during ongoing war, we are talking about both soft and hard infrastructure reconstruction, and we also need to requires and pay attention and sensitivity to conflict-specific dynamics. We also need to understand we work both on long-term perspective strategy, but also we need to make immediate response to the damages or to the situation that is in our community. So we work both, make fast response and thinking about long-term recovery. And it's also, we need to pay attention and be sensitive for different regions, and we need to have different approach on how we can recover in different regions, because Ukraine is a big country and we have different situations situation in different regions and in different communities. Yeah, and I would like to start to talk about actually the terminology or the concept of that we use when we're talking about recovery or reconstruction. Actually, we have a lot of concepts. We use a lot of concepts as sociologists, and it's also a little bit trouble of common understanding what really does these concepts mean and how we can use it and how we can have the common language among sociologists around the world, because also there are, even in English-speaking countries, they're not all agree on what's does mean what, and also what concept can we use. And the same situation we have in Ukrainian language. We use different terminology, and I will tell you also a lot of different misunderstanding between different disciplines. And this presentation for me, it's to start discussion. It's not mean that we can use only just meaning that I propose to use, but it's more to discuss and to arise the question about terminology and how we use it and what do we mean when we talk about this. So I analyze the literature, and my presentation is based on the literature analysis about how we use different concepts and how this concept connected and interrelated each other. And I develop the structure based on analyzing the more abstract concepts, and then I will go to more narrow concept. And the most abstract and most wide concept that sociologists use and other disciplines use is the concept of recovery. And it's connected and interrelated with the concept of reconciliation, development, or regeneration. We will talk a little bit more what is the difference. And also it's consists of, but not the whole, with the concept that shows the process of new identity construction or sinking identity, practices of commemoration, trust building, social cohesion. And we can see, based on this model, that actually recovery interrelated with wider concept as peace building, as our colleagues work in this sphere mostly today, and also the concept of development and regeneration. And when we're talking about the process of recovery, the most popular terminology that our colleagues use is recovery and reconstruction, actually. And in different research, I can see that they use it as, sometimes they use it as synonyms, but sometimes it's not. And the literature that I evaluate, I can understand and assume that recovery is wider concept, and reconstruction is a part of recovery. Actually, international projects show us that the reconstruction assumed the part of recovery as a step of recovery, but recovery is wider, because when we're talking about recovery, we're also talking not just about like strategic process of reconstruction, but also about social cohesion, about social justice, and reconciliation. Inside of the term reconstruction, we have more narrow concepts and other terminology, and you can see there are a lot of them. It's like rebuilding, renewal, rehabilitation, restoration, repairment, and all of these terms, they have a lot, and they intercept a lot between each other, but they have different aspects. For example, when we're talking about restoration, firstly, we're talking about about recreation of the original appearance or conditions. Or when we're talking about rebuilding, we're talking about or physical or social renewing of a structure, and it's like recreation. But it's not mean that they make the same it was before the destruction. It's mean that we renew it. So we can rebuild, like renew. We construct from very beginning it. When we're talking, for example, rehabilitation, mostly we're talking about returning of a function, right, and status, but not always like renewing or rebuilding the structure. The function can be the same, but not always the structure are the same. And also, this is like the three main and most concepts that are used among our colleagues. But what is important for us as sociologists, and that is here a lot of misunderstanding between different disciplines, because the concept of reconstruction, rebuilding, and restoration also used a lot by economists, by urban planners, and sometimes we have different meaning of this concept, and mostly the urban planners, they thinking about the hard infrastructure, but also this concept it's a part of our legislation system, and we have really strict understanding what does it mean when we use reconstruction and what does it mean when we use rebuilding, and it's a little bit now it's a little bit tricky because, for example, on the level of policy, mostly in Ukraine we use like recovery, but on the level of the urban planning project, we use mostly reconstruction. But from time to time, we understand like the same things. And also, when we're also talking about reconstruction, this is the most abstract concept for our colleagues in urban planning. Also, the different concepts from this terminological field use our colleagues from other disciplines. For example, rehabilitation. It's also the concept that is widely used by our colleagues from medical science, from psychological sciences, and in the sphere of policy development. And in this way we also have a little bit a lot in the common, but different meaning of the concept. And also we will have some misunderstanding in the using, for example, the term of renewal or renovation, because, for example, in Ukrainian language is sometimes the same, but it's really not the same, and they have different emphasis on the level of actually innovation in the process. Yeah, so we can see this is really a lot of a really great field for talking and discuss how we use this terminology. But also when we're talking about recovery, we're also talking about social issues, and here we also have a lot of concepts that intersect each other, but also that we need to have common language and to use it in appropriate way. And here we have actually the reconciliation is a part of recovery, and we can't have actually recovery without reconciliation. We can't have recovery without peace building. And in this frame, we have other really important concepts that we need to analyze the concept of commemoration, identity construction, social cohesion, trust building, healing, inclusion, and reintegration and social justice. And in this sphere, we have a lot in common with such disciplines as actually the lawyers, the psychologists, also we have a lot in common with the medical scientists and the scientists who work in the sphere of peace building, and it's multidisciplinary actually field, and also it's a field of education. So in this way, we also need to have the common language with these disciplines, and we need to have a dialogue how we use this concept. But here I can say that I don't see a lot of misunderstanding in this sphere, because this is really interdisciplinary framework for these concepts, and in this sphere we have more agreement on how we understand this concept in compared to the understanding of the reconstruction, recovery, in our interception with our colleagues in planning sphere. And the last one, but not the least, the part of the recovery process is a process of post-war development. So we when we're thinking of recovery, we always need to remember that this concept means not just to rebuild something, but also to renew and make some reforming to make the life better, or this is like the process that help us to rethink our structures and re-innovate it based on our needs, and make it more equal, and etc., etc. So the development is important concept, also the part of the process of recovery. And when we're talking about recovery and reconstruction, we always mean that some innovation will be there. And also our colleagues from urban planning, actually they often use the concept of regeneration. And this concept is the most abstract and wide concept that show us the strategic approach of multi-level transformation after the war, or even without the war. And this is really the sustainable transformation with a new quality at the level of systems, of relationship, and it also involves the values, structure, and social change. So this is the widest, but also this concept shows us the most level of transformation during the recovery process. And it can be only like after war or post-war recovery process, because the recovery during the war and recovery is the first step, and then we get development after the war, and then we have regeneration. Yeah, so this is like the part of wider processes. So this is my estimation of the framework of this process and the concept that we can use. And for me, I think that for sociologists, probably the most abstract but useful concept will be like recovery, and I plan it to use in my research when I will focus on the role of grassroots initiatives in the recovery process. And in this way, when we're talking about recovery, we're talking about actually both physical and social transformation that will actually restore, not just only restore the older structure, but also reforming it and creating new social order and changes like the basis for the all to solve the old problems and make more the bigger level of well-being. But when we're talking about recovery, mostly the sociologist thinking about this concept as estimation on the turning to normality and the normal life. And what is important, that recovery is a dynamic process, and actually it's a process, not the result. And this is the part of the social structure, and deeply have a social phenomenon. It's important to understand that it's multi-level process and multifactorial process, and also it's always involve a lot of factors. And in this way, we need to think about this participation in the recovery process. And also, as for us, as for sociologists, I try to analyze the literature, what the main issues are in a different papers that presented in the SAGE base and also in the ResearchGate. And actually the most popular issue among sociologists is the social inequalities and social structure, and how we can recover to make more equal society, and how recover influence actually on the social inequalities, and do we have any changes, and who is more vulnerable, and how recovery estimate their needs and meet their needs. The second, based on the popularity, the second issue, there are a lot of research about the process of government and management of recovery process, and here a lot of also research on the participation of different actors, and here our colleagues used the actor network analysis, and probably this issue is the issue where I have the common interest, and I will use it in my research. And also we can see that there are really a lot of different issues that our colleagues research. And what I can say that today in Ukraine, among our colleagues in sociology, there are not so much research about the recovery process, but there are a lot of research on the sustainability during the war, and actually our society and our life during the war. And this research will be the basis of the next step, researching actually the recovery process during ongoing war. And I think that it's really important theme for research, and I hope that I will have opportunity to have common research with my colleagues who will be interested in this thing. This is all. This is all from my side. I hope my English was clear for you, and maybe you will have some suggestion for me, or recommendation, or any questions. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. Please. Oh, Valentina already had a question, please.
For the presentation. Well, I actually like to pose the question because you highlighted peace building more from sociological standpoint. And while this notion, I bet we could all agree, is deeply rooted in some political process, at least in Ukraine for now, I would like to ask you, in your opinion, is it rational or even advisable to distance peace building education from political education, or should we explicitly root it in political and diplomatic understanding, to some extent, of course, just to better prepare students for real world complexities, to say so? What's your opinion?
Yeah, thank you for the question and the comment. I think, of course, it's connected. Everything is actually connected, but the peace building should be the part of policy making and should be the part of educational system and educational process in Ukraine for sure. And I think that it's important start to thinking and developing these approaches today. But it's also important when we're talking about the peace building, we're also talking about the dialogue inside of our country and how we can actually talk to each other between different people who have different war experience from different cultural background. And I'm really now I research a lot the different initiatives that appeared in Ukraine, and there are a lot of initiatives, and I'm happy that there are a lot of initiatives about the building dialogue in a school level, in universities, and in the communities. So probably this process is more about starting the dialogue, but there are a lot of, I think, interesting cases to study. And also what is important that it's really the part of the recovery process, because it's a part of social cohesion development. It's a part of trust development. It's connected a lot with the reintegration of IDPs. Also a lot, we already have the dialogues about the commemoration practices, how we can memorize the war and the heroes. So there are a lot of processes that it's already ongoing, and actually I think that this is the part of the recovery starting like during the war. Yeah. But of course, it's a part of the policies, but I would like to emphasize this issue like really important, and it's and also it's important that this is the part where we have multidisciplinary studies, and it's important to have it like separately for me, just to show that there are a lot of other connected concepts, and that we need to emphasize this issue a lot. And yeah, and also it can be problematic because when we're thinking about peace building, the stereotype in our society that it's about peace building between the countries, but for us, it's also the process of negotiation inside of our country. Yeah, I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I really appreciate that you highlighted actually that we should have not only the dialogue like internal within the country and among different categories of actors of this peace building, but as well that these dialogues should be conducted as well on interstate basis. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
More questions to Maria? Okay. I saw that Svetlana Borea joined to our conference. Are you ready to present or a bit later?
Hello, dear colleagues. Do I have a good sound?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, then I will try to share my presentation. You know, the last time I haven't used Zoom. And now, right here, do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So, let's see if they are moving. Yes, they are. As we see, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, It's a great honor to be present at this important, outstanding conference that is approaching so important issues, so important topic like peace building, like peace, So the topic that I'm going to present is developing peace value among future teachers through inclusive and reflective educational practices. Mrs. Maria Grushenko has just presented the concept from the perspective of sociology, where people are trying to see the roots of conflicts, to come up with a procedure, with methods, how to solve, how to support, to get and to reach the peace, while we from the field of pedagogy, we see from and come to the aspect, or we approach the topic, trying to find the possibility how to learn, how to develop from different perspective, how to grow up, how to develop values, to develop and grow up really good peace builders, how to maintain, how to educate citizens from the global perspective to become a peace builder. So that's why I will start with the fact that peace, the fact of trying to define the concept of peace. For sure, you probably will agree that's very difficult. There are so many definitions and they all are outlined from different perspectives, yes.
Just a second, slides do not switch. It's probably you share not full screen, but just...
No, I'm sharing full screen. Yeah. Once again, are they moving? Because I see that they are moving.
We are not. We don't see.
That's bad. Okay.
I think you need to start present within this.
So now is the whole screen, the total.
Now is the whole screen.
Yes.
Are they moving? Are they moving?
Yes.
Okay. So great. So like happiness, harmony, justice, or freedom, peace is something we often understand. Peace, understand it, or think about it's important when it is missing. So when we notice, that peace is missing, usually when it appears a conflict, where the conflict ends, people start to listen and understand each other. Peace is not just the end of war, as you know, it also means living in safety, respect, and cooperation. So in today's world, peace is very important for people and countries to live together as we are part of a globality. So that's why in order to live in a better way, we have to change our life perspectives. So languages offer a wide range of words to describe the concept of peace. In different languages we have where the word peace is reflected in many forms and meanings. So according to Webster's Third New International Dictionary, the term peace is defined in more ways, which help us better understand both, as you have already mentioned, outer, external, and its inner, outer speaking about social and political, and inner personal and emotional dimension of this great concept. So Also, it's good to be mentioned the fact of the definition that describes peace as freedom from civil glamour or confusion. Yeah, that is a state or relates to a state of public quiet. So this refers to the absence of conflict or disorder in a society, often called, as probably again you have already discussed, yeah, negative peace, and the presence of calm and order known as positive peace. Webster Dictionary also extends this idea, defining political peace as a state of security or order within a community provided for by a law, custom, or public opinion. Here I would add again the second type, yeah, of definition that is related to inner peace, yeah, that's connected or concerned with personal or spiritual peace, and the third component or part is interpersonal peace. Relational, or that is that concerns with relations or relationships that build social or lead to building social harmony. How is peace, yeah, perceived in our country? For sure, there are so many ways, yeah, to discover the way how a specific notion is perceiving the concept of peace. Especially we Moldovan people can dig it meaning or find the values into Moldovan folk tales, yeah, where peace is often implied rather than explicitly stated. It appears as desired desire state, usually at the end of the story when conflicts are resolved, justice is served, and harmony is restored in the kingdom or in a specific family. So here are some key ways peace is expressed, and they are displayed on the slide. Peace as the return toward and justice. Peace as harmony with nature and others. Peace as moral ideal. These are all qualities that lead to peace between people. Peace as the happy end, usually in the fairy tales. So as you see, although the word peace may not be directly used in our folk or Moldovan folk, clearly stories, fairy tales, yeah, and many of literature works promote the idea that true peace comes from justice, kindness, harmony, and moral strength. What are these? For sure, values deeply rooted in Moldova's cultural identity. So that's why we as teachers, yeah, have to interfere, yeah, with specific approach that will for sure have the aim to lead to a methodology of growing perspectives of internal peace through intertransformation, in order to have an outer, to reach that level of outer, we need firstly to start from internal peace, yeah, that comes from inner transformation. And here is the very right saying that was outlined by Dalai Lama, who said, attempting to bring about world peace through the internal transformation transformation of individuals is difficult. But it is the only way. Peace must first be developed with an individual love within, an individual. Love, compassion, and altruism are the fundamental basis of peace. This atmosphere can expand from the individual to the family, community, and eventually the world. So here is the key that should be in hand of teachers that have the aim or should be focused on building a curricula. But before speaking about, yes, curricula, building a curricula on the development of values, aside apart through competencies, we have to focus maybe in the 21st century, on values. So that's why here at our university, being part of Peace Education project, we had the task, one of the main tasks was to measure Moldovan students' needs, students that in future will become teachers, and trying to discuss their needs. We found out that conflict, we found out what spheres maybe changed, what spheres maybe actionable or through under the actions may be changed, and bring success in changing the balance of change. So the Moldovan needs assessment emphasized the following needs that peace education can potentially address. And the first was conflict resolution. So peace education is supposed, that investing more in peace education in the umbrella of peace education would equip our students and future teachers with skills for peaceful conflict management and constructive dialogue that is essential or are essential for addressing ongoing regional tensions. The second is social cohesion. So working more with peace education or on peace education will bring us to the possibility to bridge social division that foster mutual understanding and promote national unity, especially in regions with historical conflicts that we have, like Transnistria and Gagauzia. Also, the second is youth engagement. That's also a very important point, to invest in young people and make them to understand that peace is very important in our life, and get focused on the issues that are concerned with peace, and finally understand that it's crucial for social innovation and transformation, and it empowers them with leadership and civic participation skills. And last but not the least, again, that's very important for our country that's very diverse, where more nations are coexisting and trying coexisting in peace, is cultural diversity. So peace education emphasizes respect for diversity and inter-ethnic dialogue, and once they will deepen into the peace education values. Probably this will help build bridges between different communities, contribute to social cohesion and stability. So based on Moldova needs assessment, some changes were made into curricula, university curricula. And one that I'm going to discuss here is the course education policies in the European context, where we introduced a module focused on peace education. And the students had a possibility to work with core topics that were connected with multilingualism and the linguistic diversity, cultural dialogue, intercultural competence, and the model promoted critical peace pedagogies for sure. Teachers tried to adjust, select appropriate methods, and the whole content and whole tools, and applied methods were oriented towards inclusive and peace, constructive, inclusive and peace-oriented environment. So let's discover some of the tools or components of methodology that was implied. For sure, two main parts or two main aspects that were very important for us was the student trying to build students' autonomy, through ownership, choice, through making the student more responsible in choosing the content, in choosing the forms of content. And sure, here on the second side, on the other side, was the teacher who acted as a facilitator, researcher, as an observer, and sure, he had the quality of a reflective teacher. So what tools were used, what perspectives, what approaches? The first I would mention co-construction. Why? Because student and teacher work together in selecting the contents, in selecting the best methods that suits to specific student. Why? That's very easy. It supposes the personalized learning that for sure will contribute to building a more inclusive environment for students closer to their needs. Also implementing new and different teaching approaches. Why? Because now with the abundance of new technology, our students have possibility to work not only in physical classroom, but using different online platforms. That's why it was suggested or was possible to have this blend between physical and online approach. As a method was used, blended approach, and the most appropriate to our context was flipped learning. Was very important to organize learning content and task, that and select according to the principle of interest, relevance, and curiosity. from teacher was a facilitator. How was possible to be a good facilitator through giving constant feedback, yeah? And giving constant feedback for sure contributed, a constant feedback and the explicit contributed to the students' increase of motivation. Another great point here is to equip students with a wide range of learning strategies and encourage them to try more and get the best results. Why? Again, they will think, digest, yeah, co-construct the route of their own individual learning, and in this way is supposed that they will become more responsible, more implied, and more motivated with their learning. And the last one for sure, the last component included reflection, yeah, writing, yeah, some reflection text, yeah, where they had possibility to reflect on the topics, to reflect on their importance, to reflect as on the methods, the techniques, yeah, the form of learning, and sure, as future teachers, they have possibility to understand the importance of the way how is designed methodology and see the final impact of it, depending or independence of the multiple factors that may contribute. So as principles that were here involved and highly appreciated and contributed to outlining specific methodology is diversity and equity, differentiated learning, yeah, blended learning, multiple learning approaches, positive teachers and students' attitude, and strategic learning. Here we have some examples of use techniques, yeah, like interactive lectures were introduced policy concepts with space for questions and discussions. Also, case studies when speaking about conflicts, when speaking about multi-faced aspect of multilingual approach in teaching, multilingual approach in classroom, yeah. Also, one very good technique is simulation and role play that is related to practice diplomatic negotiation, inclusive decision making. And for sure, one of main technique that was highly and proved to be really important was group projects. Group projects where students worked, collaborated, and presented finally a product. In our context, in our case, it was a project lesson, where students had to teach peace in peace, out arena, in different form in the classroom to different target groups. If you are attentive here, also is a list of different techniques that are proved to be really interactive, like think, pair, share, jigsaw technique, fishbowl, concept mapping, and for sure the reflective journal. Here you have some examples of pictures where are displayed, some moments where our teachers are working during the classroom, during the peace education model. Usually they had different cases and they had to discuss and then come with solutions. They were related to real life connection, the real life experience. As you know, our students are belonging to different ethnic communities. That's why they had possibility to come with their real experience and find solutions. After that, they went into, before it was a kind of simulation, and then they went into real adventure, and it happened in schools, and they had to teach their lessons to different target groups, because they had or went into with their projects and taught different grades, starting with the 3rd up to 11, as I remember. So students or teachers, school teachers school pupils liked a lot. They were proved to be highly interested in the topics and in the way students presented their activities. After working with peace education topics, peace education model, we wanted to assess the way we constructed. We wanted to assess the relevance of topics we presented them, and that's why they had a questionnaire where they had to answer the questions. Finally, we found out that they liked the topics and they found them useful, and they really contributed to deepening their knowledge about peace education. As you see, the most of them found the model very useful, and a bigger part useful. That means that we still have field work. We still have to make our students and convince that peace issues are very important in our society. When we ask them about topics and their relevance, or have they found them as being engaging or useful, and come with reasons why, again, we saw a diversity of points of view, and at this stage, again, we understood that we have to do a lot of work in order to make our students perceive peace values as essential. Asking about the form of work, the project work, because mainly their individual work was based on project, cooperative or collaborative project work. We found out that many of them liked this form of work, appreciated as being interesting, challenging, because they had to work at a unique product, in groups, and they had to agree, disagree, complete each other, improve each other ideas, manage time and manage tasks, and all these were very challenging and developed a lot of their life skills. Many of them appreciated less theory, and one of the thing that was usually often mentioned in their suggestions was where the presence of more practical activities. So in conclusion, if someone would ask me, or if I were to ask to give a metaphor for the word peace in Moldova, or from the perspective of educational or perspective on peace, educational perspective on peace, I would choose the following metaphor. Peace is a fragile glass lantern in a storm. Its light steady, it seems in Moldova that is steady nowadays, but very vulnerable. I don't know if it's correct to say it's vulnerable. And every hand that shields it helps to shine Why? This metaphor captures how precious and delicate peace is today, especially in the face of regional conflicts and uncertainty. And it emphasizes that peace requires collective effort and constant protection. And if I were to give a word that characterize the action that's very important from us, from the side of educators, then it will be the verb cultivate. Cultivate. Why? Because peace is something, and Moldova should continue to cultivate focus and cultivate peace like vineyards on its sunlight slopes. And if thinking about one word that describes the action of educators from the perspectives of education, then it will be rooted. Why? Because Moldova's peace is rooted, grounded in its cultural traditions, as I have already mentioned. We have in our fairy tales, in our literature, in our cheering, in our everyday way of expressing us. We have the culture of and tradition of wishing and desiring peace. Thank you, my dear colleagues. That's all.
Thank you, Svetlana. Do you have any questions? Colleagues?
If
Yeah, please.
So thank you a lot. And I will stop sharing.
Okay. If there are no questions, let's go further. And next presentation, as I have a list, Natalia Treshko.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I not have a presentation in the screen. I prepare only oral short presentation. I am from Kiev. My name is Natalie. I'm from Kiev and from Institute of Sociology and Academy of Science of Ukraine. And my idea, my title of this presentation is Theory and Practice of Post-Conflict Transformation, Navigating to Interplay between Reintegration and Justice. I think this is two different type and two different main idea for post-conflict war. For post-conflict country. It's idea about reintegration of our country after war and justice, because it's some maybe opposite idea. What's interesting, but still. Post-conflict transformation encompasses a multifaceted approach to rebuilding society that have experienced violent conflict. This process extends beyond mere physical reconstruction. It involves comprehensive social, political, and economic strategy aimed at forcing sustainable peace. Post-conflict transformation is one of the most pressing challenges in the contemporary world, especially in regions that have prolonged armed violence, ethnic conflict, or political repression. From the Balkan to Rwanda, from North Ireland to Colombia, and now in Ukraine, society emerging from conflict must ask, how do we rebuild trust? How do we hold perpetration accountable? Can we truly reconcile justice and reintegration? And in this, my oral presentation, I'm trying to seek to explore this question by delving into both the theoretical and practical experience is post-conflict transformation, focusing on often conflict imperative of reintegration and justice. Key dimensions of post-conflict transformation include reintegration is the aspect focus of the successful return and integration of replaced populations, particularly former combatants, into civilian life. Reintegration is not merely about provide basic needs. It also involved facilitating access to education, vulnerable train, and mental health support, which are crucial for long-term stability. And about justice. Justice is dimension referring to mechanism established to address past problem, promotive, accountable, and I hold the right of victim. This idea what the right has or had victim of violence. Justice had manifest through various forms, including criminal trial, truth commission, and reparation. The pursuit of justice is essential for societal healing and restoration of trust among community members. The tension between reintegration and justice is the relationship between this. And I think the most important idea how we can some form for justice framework, transitional justice framework. The transitional justice is a set of jurisdiction and non-jurisdiction mechanism to deal with mass and systematic abuse. It typically includes criminal prosecution, truth commission, reparation programs, and institutional reform. The goal of the recognized victim, rebuild trust and prevent recurrence. And I present some short case studies about this program, about this transitional justice framework working. First case is South Africa. In South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established in the aftermath of apartheid to address the systematic injustice experienced by marginalized communities. This commissions is aimed and involved to truth about human rights violation while offering amnesty to perpetrators who fully disclose their action. This approach facilitates a form of restorative justice that emphasizes healing and reconciling over retribution. While this commission has been credited with promoting national unity and for fostering dialogue, it has faced criticism for unsuccessfully addressing the material and psychological needs of victims, raises concern about the justice in this reintegration process. And another case is Rwanda. Following the 1994 genocide, Rwanda implemented a hybrid approach to justice that combined traditional Gakaga courts with formal justice processes. The Gakaga courts was were community-based mechanism traditional for this location, designed to promote healing and reintegration for allowing victim and perpetrators to confront one another in a public forum. This model has had mixed result. In one hand, it has been prized for its emphasis of community involvement and restoration justice, fostering dialogue and reconciliation. On the other hand, concern can be raised about the fairness of the procedures and potential social tensions of the incident of the public nature of the trial. And I think we not have universal model for this process. We not have really resultive consideration or resultive integration between justice and rehabilitation. But if we don't have these universal models, its context is unique. Important models all fail. Successful transformation is need to understand that inclusive and participation is connection with the context of the real situation. For Ukraine, it means that Ukraine ongoing war raised origin questions. How to reintegrate formerly occupied territory and collaborators? What justice mechanism should be used for Russian war crimes? How can local community build trust again after mass violence? Ukraine will require a comprehensive, flexible, and victim-centered post-conflict transformation strategy. Thank you, my colleagues, for your attention. I'm conclusion.
Thank you a lot. Please, questions? Okay. Thank you, Natalia. We will go further. And next presentation is...
Maria Grishchenko.
sorry, Maria, please.
Yes, thank you. I just I was slow. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. And it's not a question. It's more like thoughts, or also I'm also thinking about the cases in Ukraine, because I know that now we already have like initiatives about the dialogue in reoccupied territories, and the dialogue is about collaboration and how we can live together after the occupation. And I think it can be a really interesting case for you. It was in several gramadas, and actually as the result of dialogue, the organizers, they emphasized that it was really important to talk about the time during occupation, and to talk about this issue. It's even not so important to have like to have a results, like to I can say it to have that, like to say that this person make a crime, but it's important to talk about that this process took place, and we need to talk about this, and we need to name these people actually, and talk, and this process has already started in Ukrainian communities, and I think it can be interesting case to start thinking about also the processes that's already here in Ukraine, because it's really important issue, and our legislation not really well done, and I think even not fair, and can't really make the reconciliation based on the community level. It's make more problems and more conflicts actually than solve this problem. But I think it's a really important issue. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your remark. And about community level, I think it's most important for community level to start of this dialogue, because on level of government of all countries it's not possible now. But in community and in real relationship between real people, it's more important for my perspective than, for example, ideological discussion or something this like political or ideological forces, because community is the synonym of democracy for me, not for me, for all social science, I think. And in this situation, if in community we start this process, as you said, it's very important. It's most important that all of this and others. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Another questions? Okay. Thank you, Natalia again. And next, Lucia Sava. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
She is not at the list of the participants,
okay.
So let's move forward.
Okay, and then Viktor Savchenko.
Hello. Here, nice to see you. And thanks for this conference, for these attentions to the very deeply questions. And I'd like to present you maybe a bit theoretical question. I just opened my presentation. Yeah, here it is. 1 second. Yeah, it's a theory from John Galtung's concept of positive and negative peace, pathways for Europe in polycrisis. So I'd like to present you who is John Galtung and what about the concept of positive and negative peace, and why it's very important for all countries, not only for Ukraine, and I think especially for Ukraine and at the post-war period. Europe is facing a polycrisis, which refers to a combination of crises within geopolitical, economic, social, and environmental realms. Given these circumstances, the needs for tranquility and stability has become crucial. However, even in such a situation, the idea of peace thought is worth questioning. Does the peace signify the end of violence in conflict, or a more holistic state of social wellness backed by fairness and justice? Galtung, a known scholar and pioneer in peace studies, from which this paper draws attention, offers the modes of negative peace and positive peace that provide basis analytical tools. Negative peace signifies the absence of violence or war. However, neglecting the social aspects makes the definition incomplete. Positive peace is a term that describes the presence of social justice, which can be achieved through cooperation with the absence of structural violence, which are social systems that cause harm and deny people opportunities to meet their basic needs. This paper will discuss this fundamental Galtung's concept, arguing that the distinction between negative and positive peace in Galtung's work is pivotal for analyzing contextual factors in conflicts. The central concept of peace has often been equated to negative peace, the lack of organized, state-sponsored or direct violence between two or more nations, or significant internal armed skirmishes. The cessation of warfare through the signing of treaties and the silencing of weapons in conflict best exemplify negative peace. The importance of negative peace should not be overlooked. For populations subject of violence, an immediate goal in the cessation or two of hostilities, which is hopeful and creates space for recovery and social reconstruction. Europe is refined with treaties aimed to establish negative peace, ranging from foundations once to more compensatory agreements to conflict cessions. So, negative peace is the absence of violence or fear of violence, and positive peace is the attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. So, negative peace is about how to stop conflict, positive peace, how to prevent next conflicts. So, what should we do with the crucial fundamental reasons to previous the conflict? How we can rebuild, reconstruct our ideology, political system, economic, etc., to prevent next conflicts. Galton's critique reinforced the shortcoming of viewing negative peace as a final stage. He warned that such peace might only indicate a temporary calm if nations are devoid of overt conflict, but equally devoid of justice or human thriving. Negative peace is exceedingly fragile when the underlying conflict factors, such as severed structural inequalities, historical unsolved issues, or power asymmetries, are not addressed. Post-conflict scenarios where socio-economic disparity, transitional justice, or minority issues, along with elite power sharing, settlements, or territorial division, exemplify the underlying fragility of negative peace. While bypassing direct violence, this measure can worsen pre-existing structural issues, risking future clashes. Within the European region and during historical legacies or presenting economic dividends, threaten long periods of negative peace, laying the groundwork for political violence and renewed hostilities. Thus, while negative peace is vital as a first step, it begs the question of an enduring, unblemished peace. The absence of violence doesn't equate with peace. Galton's introduction of positive peace has shifted the focus from avoiding unpleasant circumstances to actively making an effort to foster and improve one's living environment. Sustaining society requires a social structural framework that, to the extent warranted by society's culture, ensure equality and harmonization social relations. Positive peace relies on a cooperative, integrative social order where all persons and groups have opportunities and resources to realize their goals and inspirations. The concept of structural violence is central to achieving positive peace. Unlike direct violence, which is associated with a specific perpetrator and inflict harm that can be seen and felt, structural violence is more indirect, hidden, and oftentimes integrated into the social, political, and economic systems. It occurs when social structures or institutions persistently discriminate against particular groups, blocking them from fulfilling basic needs. Such forms include systematic discrimination, inadequate supply of fundamental social goods as an education, healthcare, and legal assistance, exploitative economic relationships, and political disproportions. Structural violence doesn't need to be physical. However, the outcomes of violence, such as shorter life expectancy, lower standard of living, chronic and social isolation, are just as demanding. Positive peace, therefore, entails and attempts to systematically identify, reduce, and seek to eliminate underlying sources of violence. This requires creating new or strengthening existing institutions and legal norms that foster equity and justice, cooperation and integration, human rights and dignity, and constructive conflict transformation. Achieving positive peace is a continuous and anticipatory effort that works on various levels of society, such as building trusted or robust civil actors, fostering focus on peace education and human rights advocacy, transforming a just system, and promoting appreciation of diversity and understanding. European efforts to improve these areas is gender equality, the integration of migrants and social inclusive persons, democratic accountability, and the elimination of unjustified discrimination in employment, advance positive peace, as they mitigate potentially threats to peace and strengthen society resilience. Negative and positive peace exist not as positive but in a multi-layered interdependent context. Galtung didn't undervalue negative peace. He positioned it as an essential fundamentation construct that was insufficient for positive peace. The conditions for the long, intricate, and sustained work toward positive peace being only after a negative peace, during which the halting and of directed violence and conflicts occur and society's infrastructure of social orders is established. In contrast, the arrangement of the social structure are necessary for negative peace to last and be sustainable. Hostilities have increased in a society, but such a society with deep-rooted injustice and disparate level on the violent side of the scale. We can cite the precondition of the Second World War as an example, which were rooted in German society's dissatisfaction with the perceived adjustment outcome of the First World War. Positive peace addresses the issues that give rise to conflict. It helped reduce the suspicion and grievance that often arise from war conflict. Societies with robust elements of positive peace exhibit greater resilience to internal and external shocks. This is particularly relevant when considering Europe's polycrisis, as noted by Galtung ideas, serve as usefully proposed. The armed conflict in Ukraine highlights how fragile negative peace is in the absence of fundamental resolutions to secure concern and historical issues. Apart from active armed conflict, Europe has new security challenges, which includes economic difficulties that give rise to social conflicts, the comeback of extremist forces, and fierce disputes of migration policies, as well as on questions of national identity. Focusing only on a negative peace framework will not be sufficient. Europe's capacity for resilience and renewal is intrinsically linked to the positive peace it can cultivate. This includes strengthening social cohesion, combating discrimination, promoting inclusion, cultural valuable intergroup relationship, protecting all social segments, addressing economic inequalities, reinforcing democratic institutions, and investing in peace education and diplomacy. Building positive peace is a multi-phased project that is complex and must be pursued over a long time. It demands devoted effort, political will, and full participation from society. It additionally requires the willingness to critically integrate the prevailing power configuration and accept the need for progressive change. The gap between negative and positive peace, as outlined by Galtung decades ago, remains partitioned to today's realities. It is crucial to look beyond simplistic frameworks that depict peace as the absence of conflict and instead adopt a more holistic approach that aims for a just, equitable, and dignity social for all. In coping with the convoluted polycrisis, Galtung theory is not merely academic but deeply practical for Europe. Enhanced resilience and renewal for the continent certainly cannot be achieved through security strategies and crisis management in a peacetime, procreated, and conflict. It requires a commitment to achievement of positive peace, building which entails addressing the structural violence that generates discontent and conflict, fostering the enabling environments, and creating societies where all can thrive. These actions call for addressing inequalities, strengthening democratic process and institutions, promoting social inclusions, and advocating for all protecting human rights. The task is enormous, but it changed the story of Europe for not just to be a continent free of wars, but a community that deeply cares about social justice, solidarity, and sustainable development. Everyone from scholars and policymakers to civil society and ordinary citizen has a role. Every person actively and critically analyzes prevalent structures to promote just policies and dialogue across divisible society fault lines, advocates for understating towards positive peace. So, in general, how we can understand this theory? We have positive peace as a moment after negative peace. So for at first we should finish or violence, should finish war and conflict. And then we should create positive peace. Peace where we rebuild our society, rebuild our identity, legal norms, economics, etc., to create strong relationships between all society and also between conflicts party. Because if we don't change the general issues, general reasons of conflict, we will find this conflict again in the future. So the general ideas of John conflict is to build and develop strong society, and how we can rebuild the previously situation which was a reason for the conflict. And it is a general issue, general task for all conflict society, especially for Ukraine, what we should to do after the war, after the moment when war will start, and it will be a safety without armors, without destroys. What will be the next steps, not only in our program like a rebuilding of Ukraine, but what we should to do with our enemies to protect us for the future generations and to never have this conflict again. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Please, questions to Victor? Okay.
I have a short comment. It's very interesting presentation. And we also work with the theory of Galtung and his theory of negative and positive peace. But there is also another side of this problem. I mean, problem of peace and peace building is the how should we conceptualize a war as social phenomenon, because war is not a kind of natural disaster. It's a organized, long-standing violence, which is in modern time is organized by such social, powerful social actors as states. And it's also very important to think about this positive peace and this absence of structural violence in the context of with understanding that war is something that is organized and strategically planned by both sides. So it's just my short comment on this idea that maybe this general perspective of Galtung and his theory of peace building is not enough. That's why I usually think in the context of his theory about the another theoretician who is one of the most well-known sociologists who study war is a Sinisa Maleshevich from University College of Dublin. And for me, his perspective is something that gives this more wider perspective for this Galtung's idea. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Agnieszka, please.
Thank you. And very briefly, I just wanted to ask or raise the question because perhaps I am misunderstanding as well, but it just seems that the way you're reading Galtung or applying the theory is very much kind of leading to a linear, right, conception of peace and peace building, and how peace happens, which I think, maybe missing some parts of the stories, right? Because I think Galton himself as well, when he said, it's time to problematize peace, right? That peace should be viewed as problematic, a problematic concept, not something that's kind of easy and one size fits all. I think a part of it is to have that lens or have an eye to various processes, sometimes taking place in parallel, right? And not in that sequence of, first we have the negative piece, and so now we can move on to positive piece. But in fact, actions towards peace, both negative and positive, are taking place in different ways and at different levels of society, often simultaneously, and that's the problem, right? That's what makes it complicated. So I wonder, just whether it is indeed a linear kind of vision that you have, or perhaps I got that wrong, and how you feel about that. That non-linearity as a feature of peace building.
Yeah, his theory is much more deeply as this short presentation, and he published a lot of research about it in books. But as he said, to develop positive peace, we should finish hard conflict situation. So why only after negative peace? Because in the moment when somebody destroy you, when somebody bombed you and try to kill you, it's very hard to talk about equality, diversity, about human rights, about economic, etc. You just think about how to stop this process, how to stop this war. And then when you find this silence, and you can find these resources, your mental health resources, to start develop your positive peace. So what about this topic?
Thank you. More questions? Okay. Thank you, Victor. And we have to go further. And in my list, there is now Angela Solkan, but I don't know. Does she present here? Or maybe not.
No, she is not the list of
then Julia Soroka and Agnieszka Dutra-Santos.
Yes, thank you very much, colleagues. Very, very nice to be here and hear and see many very familiar faces. It's very, very. It's a great pleasure for me. Thank you for the this opportunity, and I now happy to present our paper together with Agnieszka Faldutra-Sanchez, Everyday Life in Wartime Ukraine in the Perspective of Feminist Political Economy. And maybe I need to say, my name is Julia Soroka. I am from Kharkiv National University, Ukraine, and also Geneva Graduate Institute on International Development and Study, and Agnieszka Faldutra-Sanchez. She's a PhD in International Relations doctor and researcher in Geneva Graduate Institute of International and Development and Studies. When war happened, their reverberation felt far beyond the front line. They seep into the private sphere, interact and intersect with other forms of violence, and deeply affect the everyday reality of people, whether they live near or far from the front line. Imagine narratives of everyday war and everyday peace attempt to capture the complex relationship between violence and the rhythm of everyday life. Many of them build on feminist understanding of violence as happening along a continuum. Yet only a few provide an in-depth examination of how practices of social reproduction specifically intersect with the pattern of violence in the reconfiguring and of the everyday in times of war. We understand social reproduction as the socially necessity work that is central to the production of life itself, and take it to encompass both the biological reproduction, the physical and emotional care for one's family and community, as well as labor enabling the promotion of the cultural and spiritual heritage of community. We have found the concept of the everyday particularly useful in framing our thinking about the way in which social reproduction happens in war and post-war context, and in imagining feminist alternatives to dominant neoliberal post-war reconstruction models. Peace literature has rarely applied the lens of social reproduction when speaking about everyday peace. When everyday practices of peace are discussed, they are either interpret through the lens of localized people-to-people dialogue and trust building, or through the prism of the ethics of care, a way of thinking and doing that can be more conducive to building peaceful society. We argue that taking everyday practice of social reproduction seriously as part of the everyday strategy used to survive and recover from war can provide a better understanding of how violence operates in a society and point to a new way to rebuilding after it. The everyday is socially constructed and in contrast to simply the day-to-day activity, emerged as a site where violence is reproduced. In this case, the structural violence of a capitalist system. In the context of an armed conflict, such structural violence become interviewed with the violence of war. In Ukraine, new challenges in practicing social reproduction during the war have contributed to the entrenchment of patriarchal norm and order, reproducing structural violence against women who have increasingly found themselves confined on the home and overburdened with domestic labor, while social reproduction infrastructure has continues to shrink due to the destruction of war. On the other hand, every day is co-constructed by a wide range of actors, both those in power and those who may appear powerless. It is a social fabric so co-created by people and institutions, elite and non-elite, forming routines and responding to recurrent needs. There are many ways in which the everyday can become a site of resistance and contestation, where agent can enact the everyday in ways that counter or confront mainstream rhythm and system. Peace-building scholars have brought attention to potential of the everyday as a site of change and resistance. Feminist scholars have argued that providing care through community self-organized legal aid, child care, health and psychological counseling can foster trust and ultimately undermine patterns of violence. However, most account of care practices in peacebuilding center disproportionately on care as an ethic rather than a labor of care, central to social reproduction. Understanding violence, survival, and peacebuilding through the lens of social reproduction labor adds greater nuance and depth to what everyday peace or indeed everyday recovery might look like. Finally, the conceptualization of the everyday at the site of survival is at the heart of our exploration of it. Much of the survival happens or is enabled through social reproduction. We view survival in itself not as an act, but rather as an outcome of practices, including the everyday act of care and social reproduction. Tracing the pattern of survival and the practices that lead to it can provide important insights into how violence interact with and indeed reshape the everyday. While social reproductive labor is always necessary for the survival of individuals, communities, and societies, here we see social reproduction in care for children, the elderly, and the sick, feeding families and communities, preserving and cultivating cultural heritage and narratives. Its salience becomes particularly visible when violence makes these everyday practices less routine. For example, when securing food or medicine requires standing in long lines, traveling long distances, preserving family ties demands crossing checkpoints and putting on self in danger. And the routine of care and social reproduction is disturbed by airstrikes and spending prolonged time in bomb shelters. When this happens, the everyday become fundamentally reshaped by violence, and social reproduction become an avenue through which this reshaping takes place. There is much to gain in viewing war and peace through the prism of social reproduction. Through it, we can see how violence operates and the interplay between violence, survival, and resistance. Social reproduction exists in the space of liminality as entrenched in dangerous violence, while on the other hand, resisting them. Applying social reproduction leans to better understand and disentangle both the everyday working of violence and the everyday resistance to them is thus an important strategy that have been utilized in literature about conflict and peace. This paper, as a part of our theoretic work, was carried out with the framework of the project Care to Survive, Surviving to Care, gendered practice of survival, social reproduction, and circles of violence in Ukraine, which is funded by Swiss National Science Foundation within the framework of the Solution-Oriented Research for Development program, and is implemented by an international team with the participation of specialists from the Gender Center of Geneva Graduate Institute of International Affairs and Development Study, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and Center for Social and Labor Research in Ukraine, and the Karaizen Kharkiv National University. Our project aimed to contribute to a more feminist war and post-war reconstruction in Ukraine by bringing to light the role of social reproduction and everyday survival practices in responding to and healing from violence. Thank you very much for your attention. Maybe Agnieszka have something to add to my words. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think let's open for discussion, and then I can come in that portion so that we give time to others.
Okay, thank you a lot. Please, questions, comments. I understand that we are a bit tired, everybody, but please, Maria.
I'm sorry, I was out camera now. Thank you for your presentation. I just would like to clarify, am I right that you have both the theoretical part of study and also do you have the result of empirical research, and if it's possible, where can we read about your results? Because it's very useful for my work, so I just would like to clarify if you have the empirical research now or not.
Yulia, should I respond or would you like? Yeah. Yes, thank you for this question, and we're happy to hear that it's of interest. So yes, the paper we have written is based on very preliminary empirical research that had taken place back in 2023. We do now actually have more robust empirical results, interviews collected in Kharkiv and in Lviv regions. And these are not yet available. We're just in the process of analyzing them, but we would be very happy to stay in touch and to share with you the maybe more details or more information about these empirical findings as well. But the paper, such as it is, including our analysis of empirical data collected in the smaller preparatory study back in 2023, we hope will be published soon as part of an edited book volume. So we'll also be happy to share those details so you can read a little bit more about the early empirical findings there, and then hopefully about the fuller empirical studies findings in the future. I can put my email address in the chat box, so feel free to reach out and we'll share all of that with you.
Oh yeah, thank you. It would be nice, and also I will clarify how you understand in your case the recovery, and maybe I will ask you more thoughts about this in the future. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Julia and Agnieszka. And we are going further. And now, Valentina Solovyova.
Thank you so much. I'll show you my screen. Hopefully you can see everything. Oh yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your thoughtful speeches and thoughts. Here I'll be as a representative of civil society, and particularly a representative of youth in the course of peace building efforts. I represent the civil society organization called Public Diplomacy Platform. We're a Ukrainian NGO, and my speech will be a presentation dedicated to how we can empower civil society and youth through peace education and public diplomacy. Our organization actually has a mission to empower young people and to engage them into political and diplomatic processes. And we consider peace building as well as sort of political and diplomatic process as well. So peace building isn't possible without state development and promoting positive image of Ukraine abroad. Showing the necessity of not only interstate dialogue, but as well the dialogue between within the EU community as well. So we are a relatively small team, but our representatives were UN delegates, and we managed to conduct lots of events that are dedicated to the peace building activities as well. So particularly in the course of peace building efforts, we consider that this notion of peace education is not only about connecting in the course, of education and working with young people. It's like a transformative opportunity to learn. And I agree with previous speakers that peace building is, of course, a dialogue. And we believe that peace is more than the absence of war. It's about justice, youth empowerment, and education, because even in a wartime, education is the bridge for the transformative and trauma healing as well. So recovery is not only when peace. I agree with all previous notions. We conduct. We evaluated that the most effective actually way of delivering the agenda of peace education will be not only educating in universities and within educational classical infrastructure, but as well working in communities, not only in classrooms. That's why we suggest lots of extracurricular activities that are targeting particular aspects of field building, and as well nurturing a grown citizen that is capable of voting, understanding classical notions related to the sociology and political education, thus leading to the peace education. So while covering the role of NGO and the vital, the importance of engaging young people in the peace education, I guess it's vital to understand that these peace building efforts couldn't be just straightforward. Especially in Ukraine, in Ukrainian wartime context, we have to utilize every possible measure and to actually to address this aspect complex. So at first, we of course utilize not just a straightforward approach, but understand the peculiarities of war-affected regions. We try to balance, even in the course of research activities, working with these regions, we try to understand that there are variations in how peace building could be perceived as well. So that's why we use our Ukraine approach, not leaving alone the war-affected regions, frontline regions as well. It's just the approach, the formats of our work is changing. It's either hybrid and online, offline, but what remains evident that we work with our regions. Of course, we understood that there is a particular significance of offline events because, this communication and this understanding of unity, of joint efforts towards challenges in the face of peace building as well. We understood, and even our polls after conducting some events has shown that there's some a really significant increase in engagement level compared to between online and offline events. So even if it's like war-affected region, if there is a possibility to conduct an offline event in some safe area, we advise, and our experience had proven that it's vital to ensure this in-person exchange and communication. Of course, we have understood that part of peace building inevitably for civil society and young people particularly is that we try to advance and be on our own front line. Either it's charity events, fundraising, or volunteering efforts. So it's inevitably a part of this peace building discourse. I agree that social cohesion and civil dialogue as well is essential red line of these peace building efforts, and I'm really glad that civil society now is a really important actor in this dialogue, even if previously it was perceived that peace building could be only conducted on some diplomatic and political level. We see that civil society now plays a vital role. Representatives of civil society are delegated to some government structure, are part of dialogue and on the multiple levels as well. And as well, it's important to include local voices as well, local youth community, because it's like core of peace building. It couldn't be just centered. I mean, it should be centered, but this center should be a region driven, and you have to establish this dialogue between the politics and the central level and between the local politics as well. A few words about peace building research, because we've included this as a part of our research on the national identity. This research was conducted as always with the support of our international partners. We were exploring how the national identity actually has changed, and the perception of national identity has changed in the course of ongoing conflict. And in this research as well, we examined how we how the young people change their opinion towards cultural narratives, how they redefined what the peace notion is about actually. So it's really interesting to compare this research, because we've included partially the scope, some numbers prior to the large-scale invasion. It was, I guess, 17 18, probably. So it's really interesting to see how drastic changes are ongoing. As well, research, we conducted some targeted research, particularly how to prepare young generation, especially those who are currently abroad or have or entitled to represent Ukraine in various events. This activity was enshrined in preparing the young youth ambassador program internship. It basically, when the young people had the opportunity to do their to work closely with embassies, with local government, central level government, and thus have the capacity to represent Ukraine on the international level. So as well, peace building here was a vital narrative and the whole chapter of this program. This program actually is fully designed, but expecting to be entered into force in late autumn of this year. So hopefully this curriculum helps as well to advance how on a more responsible level of state representation to speak about peace building from the stance of civil society and young people as well. As well, we've included here another numbers from another research from the internship program. That program concerns the internship on local government and the central level government as well. Here, their understanding of the structure of civil society and the structure of young people ready to advance their state building and peace building efforts. Basically, the aim of this program is how to cultivate a new generation of public servants, public leaders, who as well is very nurtured in the notion of peace building. Overall, as well, last year and at the beginning of this year, the peace building activity was enshrined on the level of preparing youth policy, local youth policy strategies, particularly in 3 cities of Ukraine: Dnipro, Kharkiv, and Ivano-Frankivsk. It's pilot program actually, and we've tried to as well, at least on the level of some statements, to understand, to predict how we can enshrine this peace building agenda in the local documents of such significance. And prior to conducting and drafting those strategies, we conducted lots of working groups, focus groups, where we had an opportunity to speak with young people and representatives of civil society. And as well, the questionnaire contained questions regarding personal perception of peace building activities, the dialogue conducted on the interstate level. So we are, of course, enshrined this in analytical documents corresponding to each strategy. So it's vital in this course to understand that to be in the loop of civil society changes, you have to constantly assess it, to have a chance to communicate with their representatives, because we believe in our organization and as a representative of civil society that you have to constantly speak with civil society, because it's basically in a democracy. In democracies, it dictates the way how the peace building should be organized. Regarding the educational path, we tried to, on a targeted manner, to pilot educational courses. And I'd say in this regard, it is super vital to partner with educational institutions as well. That's why I'm really grateful that we have this opportunity to speak on this conference, to exchange our thoughts, even in this multinational approach and how the peace building is organized in other countries, in other civil societies as well. So we tried to target it to draft the course regarding the reconstruction. Some aspects of this course contained anti-corruption understanding, but basically how to explain in plain terms the basics of political participation, how to be a responsible citizen, how to understand election and perceive it with regard to the ongoing conflict as well. And as well, I've mentioned in the previous slide that we have anti-corruption aspect. Here you see that we have a financial integrity and peace courses as well. It was conducted as well on all Ukraine basis. We've selected multiple cities where we had an opportunity to visit in person and to exchange, to teach young people and civil society leaders. And we were lucky to discuss aspects of ethical governance, which is actually a bit surprising for us because the demand of young people and thus, I guess, the trend of civil society on actually these ethical aspects of conducting, of governing, and as well on the peace building. Which is really an advancing aspect, and I'm glad that it's really in the line of EU integration, of Ukrainian EU integration. And lastly, but not least, essential part of this peace education course and as well of nurturing the more responsible citizens is in student peace building clubs. It will be launched later, but hopefully with the support of your universities, of those who presented in this panel and this conference. We plan to launch this idea. Will be a sequence of meetings based on a dialogue as well, where participants will have an opportunity to have an access to this educational hub for students, for civil society leaders, to ensure that there is a place, a room for peer learning, training, workshops, basically everything that is targeted on the most required aspects of peace building. So basically, yeah, it's both regular meetings and as well some practical workshops, everything that could not only in theory but in practice advance your understanding and perception of peace building as well. And based on our previous research, we've decided to as well to include this ethical agenda, which is nonviolent communication, civil responsibility. And as well, there will be not only an inclusion, but a targeted focus on the students from war-affected regions. With this as well will be complemented with thematic workshops. Some of them will be part of this group, some of them will be separately conducted, and as well invite you to follow our platform and to follow the developments in the Ukrainian NGO sector, because I'm really glad that we have an increasing number of events and the trends even on how we have to teach society on the leadership, on civil literacy, digital literacy, civil society participation in public policy, and of course principles of nonviolence, since it is building as well. Training course for educators and course organizers as well has shown and proved a high demand of this, because we had not only to teach students how to be responsible citizens, how to perceive and formulate their vision of peace building, but as well we have to take care of those who will be teaching, those representatives of civil society and students as well. So we really urge, and our research had proven, multiple researchers actually had proven that we have to prepare and constantly conduct internal training and to advance qualifications of those who will be responsible for teaching and, you know, providing some information to the broad audience on peace building, because depending on their vision and their notions they decide to advance, It will be the effect of this will have the influence on the participants, on the students who will be passing particular course. So as well, inclusive pedagogical strategies, working with trauma-affected youth, and really thankful for the speakers from Georgia that highlighted this, how you have to particularly carve and tone this educational and teaching approach with such a category of students. And as well, complementary to this, quality assurance contributions, because when we speak regarding the university courses, even if it's extracurricular courses, we have to ensure that there's an opportunity to constantly revise this program and ensure that this program is really in line with the best educational practices. And there's some regimes and opportunities to ensure this quality assurance. There are some evident indicators, and as well the qualification of those who teach in such courses. They're constantly, given the fact that the context is changing drastically, we have to ensure that those courses is up to date and resilience based. There's a sequence, this conference particularly for us is a chance to participate in a sequence of similar programs related to the peace building. So please follow as well everything that you have in this EU framework of peace building, because it really has a huge EU dimension, and really grateful and thankful for this. It's vital, as I've mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, it's vital to ensure that this peace building efforts are conducted not only straightforward and a simple work plan, but is like complex and measurable set of different interventions. Regarding just a brief overview of previously discussed, our key findings that we have to build structures of peace building and institutions and measures of peace building that could stand for a really long period of time, but in the meantime could be as well flexible to adjusting the current needs of the society. We have to ensure there's a pool of experts, trained educators that are capable of implementing peace-building interventions in both formal settings, which is universities, schools, other institutions, but as well in informal settings, because our research and experience of working with civil society has proven that tendencies of education is really shifting to the extracurricular activities. And the main rationale behind this, because universities' curricula is not that up to date. We have as well to introduce new courses, both on the level of universities, but as well from the civil society. And it's good when civil society is partnering with universities, because that's why we can, with joint efforts, we can ensure that there's quality, inclusivity, there are standards, the best practices of education are included. Policymaking with regard to peace building as well is vital, both on the local level, and I'd say predominantly on the local level, and as well on the central level, to ensure that in any level there is a dialogue and multiple representation of different opinions. So basically, dialogue, political and social. Transformative learning will be the answer. Whether it's the dialogue, of course, should be a reflection and should be a room for adjusting previous mistakes or showing that there's an opportunity to be flexible in the face of upcoming challenges. We have to understand that there are lots of views and moods within the society. There will be, of course, those who are tired of war and have their perception on the peace building, and multiple views from shifting from radical to the neutral one. And working with civil society, you have to be patient and understand it is a mix of those thoughts and variations of positions. So it should be both enshrined in theory, in understanding how working with mixed society and society that wishes for violence, but of course has its own contradictions. It's not that easy. But as well, understanding this theory, you have to imply this on a practice as well. It's of course fruitful for any peace building activities to ensure emotionally safe learning environment and a feeling that every position and every thought is equally represented and accepted as well. So in this regard, we think that adapting tools for teaching new generation, teaching challenges they face, particularly trauma, crisis, and variations of challenges related to the ongoing conflict is super vital. You cannot just ignore this in any educative or generally peace-building activities. And of course, you have to share Ukrainian experience abroad. And I'm really glad that we have this dialogue, that we Ukrainians have a chance and opportunity to learn from other international experience, and that we proudly share our advancements and developments. Unfortunately, nobody is safe from future crises, but luckily, and with a decent understanding of ongoing tendencies and patterns, you can successfully, if not avoid, but to ensure that it's capable to master and these challenges and ensure the dialogue. Thank you so much. Those are resources of our particular organization. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad answering on them.
Thank you. Please, questions? Okay, thank you, Valentina.
Thank you.
Yeah, and now we have the final presentation by Svetlana. Please.
One moment, please. It's okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, sorry. Okay. I have another important meeting, so I'm feeling a little confused. And my camera is not working for some reason, for some time, so I try to think about my topic, and so I want to present to you a short report our team, Mykola, Artemy, and I, about promoting peace despite war, Ukrainians' realities. And I don't see a part of my presentation. Oh, okay. Okay.
The prevailing view among scholars is that the history of the European Union is largely shaped by the implementation of the ideas of neo-functionalism, a theoretical approach to instrumental relations associated with the name of the American political scientist Ernst Haas. The scientists Vysoka and Doyle posit that Haas' neo-functional approach should be regarded as a middle-range theory that can account for the instrumental conventions of self-interest among multiple parties or countries through economic and technocratic collaboration with a specific sector, mainly the economy. This is in turn disseminates to other sectors, so be facilitating broader political cooperation and integration. The authors note that the European Union's peace support operation should not only be studied through the lens of liberal peace-building framework, but should also be seen as self-mirroring of its internal dynamics of neo-functional integration and consolidation. In this regard, neo-functionalism offers as a conceptual
Looks like Svetlana lost her internet connection. I believe she'll be with us in a few minutes.
Just a second. It was a problem with laptop. In Svetlana, she will switch to the other one.
I'm sorry. Do you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Okay. In this regards, neo-functionalism offers a conceptual framework for the process of EU integration, including the practice of peacekeeping within European Union and beyond. The tools and methods and instruments of neo-functional peace have demonstrated their effectiveness in real cases such as Bosnia, Macedonia, Kosovo, Serbia. Traditional EU security management tools include conflict prevention, mediation, crisis management, normative regulation, legislative consolidation of human rights, human security and protection of civilians, and post-conflict stabilization. The European Union's peace building and human rights strategies are linked to civil society and have been successful outside of Europe. For example, they have been effective in the context of the internal armed conflict in Colombia. But conflict-ridden countries provide feedback about EU peacekeeping mission on their effectiveness. We have several key factors that may contribute to a modest improvement in complex conflict. A significant contributing factor is the involvement of local communities because peace building needs inclusive, participatory, and transformative approach. It would be a mistake to underestimate the importance of national elites in the context of peace building. This is a bottom-up process that requires institutional support and political settlement at certain times. The experience of conflict resolution, for example, in countries of Africa continent, clearly demonstrates that top-down approaches are ineffective, as is the failure of external actors to take into account the national context and peace-building values. It is therefore evident that the national context and values inherent to it play a key core role in determining the efficiency of the peace-building process. And this case will be illustrated with situation in African peace-building approach. After all, conflicts have a territorial dimension. So in addition to the factors already mentioned, participation of local communities, national context, peace-building values, quality of national elites, we should add another, the environmental factor. Teaching people to live in peace with each other means teaching them to live in peace with nature as well. So this experience is important for Ukraine, and Ukraine needs international support, first of all, but Ukraine needs peace with the country, inside country. Peace is needed already to remain a capable society after the end of the war. That's why the talk about peace building as a process despite war. The level peace as the absence of war, war has mistakes. It's a level of international is at international level, and we talking about peace as absence of conflict and as absence of violence. And peace building practice is not an easy task. It needs understanding the nature of the conflict and the condition of the society in which peace is built, and to support the societies to manage their differences and conflicts without resorting to violence. Peace building practices are aimed at building a peaceful society. What is peaceful society? Is a society that function properly, in which there are equality, justice, and cohesion. Equality means that every person and social group is provided with the same sources and opportunities. Justice recognizes that each person has different circumstances and distributes the sources and opportunities necessary to achieve the same result. And cohesion involves the active participation of people in solving current problems of life based on trust in relationships, a high degree of inclusion in different social groups. In this context, we are talking about social identity. Why? The Russia-Ukrainian war has fragmented Ukrainian society, and new social groups have emerged with unique experience and needs. As a result, social tensions arise, hindering the development of a cohesive community. Individuals belonging to these new groups carry a new identity they didn't desire and that they were imposed upon them. In other words, a social identity is quarried against their will. The Russia-Ukrainian war fragmented our society. What new fragmented social groups are we talking about? Internally displacement person, and the polar opposite of this group is the community that received the internally displacement person. Ukrainian war refugees and the communities of the countries that hosted them. Ukrainian war refugees who have returned to their homeland, and Ukrainians who have remained in Ukraine throughout the war. Throughout the course of the Russia-Ukrainian conflict, the distinct groups of individuals have emerged with Ukrainian society. The first comprises Ukrainian military veterans, numbering over 1.2 million as far last year, yes. The second encompasses families who have lost a loved one to the war, either directly as a result of combat or as consequences of Russia terrorist attacks of civilians. The reconciliation of Ukrainian society around these groups will depend on a number of factors. What symbolic capital will all these groups have? What will their social status be high or no? What will the government's policy be on reintegrating veterans and former prisoners of war into society? What will be the policy of memory for those killed and tortured in the war? This and many other questions have yet to be answered. However, it is clear that the group of combat veterans in Ukraine will be one of the largest veteran communities among all European countries. So we have the other divided our society. Russia employs a systematic strategy to advance its narrative among Ukrainians through the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which is under the justification of the Russian Orthodox Church. So we have two groups, Ukrainian Orthodox Church and Orthodox Church of Ukraine. Given that representatives of both denominations are citizens of Ukraine, a change in the Ukrainian religious landscape could become a potential source for conflict. Consequently, it is imperative to adopt a social and legal approach to peaceful settlement of the religious issue. So we can also call such social groups as the occupied population and the recently arrived labor force and many others. While Russo-Ukrainian war have created segments of the population that are particularly affected by the violence, such as victims, veterans, and refugees. It is nevertheless necessary to provide them with separate support programs. However, in order to avoid social tension, it is essential to take into account different social groups in peace building and to ensure their representation in the public sector, state sector, and etc. What is important? We understand peace building or creating the condition for sustainable peace is about developing the capacity to develop and maintain relationship with diverse people and learning how to care for oneself, others, and the planet as a whole. And we also want to emphasize that for the sake of social cohesion, new social groups should not be separated. We should integrate them into various activities, including environmental honors. The role of peace education is special, as the main mission of which is to form a culture of peace in Ukraine. First of all, for younger people. Peace education is not about talking about peace. It is about activities aimed at maintaining a peaceful society. A society that functions properly, in which there is equality, justice, and cohesion. So any topic that is on the slide and not just this, if it is implemented from knowledge to skills, is peace building. The topic of peace education is very broad, and my colleague, Mrs. Anush, taught about one of the few initiatives that exist in Ukraine, but the fact that we are aware of the need to build a peaceful society and are already moving in the appropriate direction is a hope that we, so Ukrainian society, will overcome both obstacles in the post-war reconstruction of Ukraine. We thank our foreign partners for this, and my colleagues and I thanks for this presentation.
Okay, thank you. Please, questions? Yes. Now, would you like to close the presentation?
Okay.
Please, questions. Okay. Our part of conference comes to the end, to the finish. Thank you to everybody who took part. I hope we received a lot of new information and enjoyed so much presentations. If you have any questions, please ask, and we will go to the finish.
and colleagues, you can find all our presentations on the YouTube channel of the Faculty of Sociology at Taras Shevchenko National University, as well as we will prepare and publish this conference proceedings. So you can send your abstracts of your talks and of your presentations to the organizational committee email. And we will prepare this kind of scientific conference proceeding publication, so we can continue our cooperation after the finish of today's conference.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
Yeah,
And hope to see you next year, at least next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have to go to my students. They're still waiting for me because I have a lecture. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
You. Thank you. Peace to us all.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.